All right, family, welcome back to the channel. Let's get right into this video. Let's talk about being wise as a serpent and innocent as a dove. If you are called by God, if God has a purpose for you, if God pulled you towards him, you already know that you're going to be constantly under attack by people. And I'm not saying it's going to be physical attack. It could be, depending on what you say, because you speak the truth, you expose things, you expose evil, right? Being wise as a serpent means your discernment is really strong. You know exactly what's going on. You know exactly the schemes of the enemy, right? You know the schemes of the world. You know the hostile things of the world. But being innocent as a dove, it works in your favor because not only do you look gullible, you look naive, which means you could easily expose people that way. Because when you look innocent, people think you don't know what you're doing. People think that you're someone who's dumb, right? Someone who's not experienced with anything. But that's not the case. That's why this is kind of like two polar opposites, right? You're both of these. Jesus said this in the Bible. When you follow him, there's going to be wolves, right? Not literal wolves, or people that are like wolves. And wolves attack without warning. They attack. They don't care. They just attack. They shoot to kill, right? And you're going to be around a lot of wolves, whether that's dark people, whether that's narcissistic people, whether that's liars, manipulators, schemes, scams, just anything that's evil in the world. You're going to be attacked by wolves because you live in the light. You live in the light of God. You live righteously. And because you live righteously, you become a target, right? Because people, this world being demonic, this world having a lot of evil in it, whenever they see someone who has a light, who has Christ in them, they're gonna want to attack you, because they're gonna want to see why you're this way, who are you. They're just gonna feel an urge to attack you, right? Because it's all a spiritual war. And this is why you gotta stay wise as a serpent. This is why you always got to keep an eye out on who you're talking to, an eye out on what's going on. You just have to be aware of it. And because you're a chosen too, you already have this awareness about you. You already have this intelligence about you, which is why you're wise as a serpent, right? You're an extremely wise individual just because you've learned a lot of things in your life, because you've gone through a lot of different types of experiences in your life. You've seen multiple different types of scenarios, situations, a lot of different type of people. You've seen all of these, and you probably were really intelligent ever since you were young, right? Really young, you were pretty intelligent, or really intelligent. And because you like this, because you're wise as a serpent, you're innocent as a dove, which is why it's so weird, because you have both. You got both of these. That's why if you're of God, you're really powerful. Since you're like this, you could kind of easily just expose a lot of different things. Because if you're innocent as a dove, people do not fear you, right? So because they don't fear you, they expose themselves easily. And then you see it because they reveal themselves to you. And then you see it because you're wise as a serpent too, so you know exactly what they're doing, right? But you bring it out of them because you look harmless. This is how it is being a child of God, because you live righteously, because you've always been someone who's high-spirited, who's kind. You look innocent. You cause nobody harm. You don't want to harm a single thing. You look like this, but because of all the things that you've gone through, all the things that you've seen, and you kind of have open eyes about everything, you have become wise as a serpent. You became extremely wise. You could tell exactly what's going on. You could tell exactly what someone's plotting. You could tell exactly how somebody's feeling, right when you see them. You could tell exactly what someone's about to do, where someone's about to go, how a situation's going to plan out. You have all these gifts if you're of God, right? You have the gifts of the Holy Spirit. You have discernment. You have high intuition. You just have many spiritual gifts. And this is also the reason why you've kind of been attacked by people. You just had weird times where you specifically get attacked. And an attack would be anything. It could just be someone saying something to you, or trying to mess with you, or trying to put you down, or trying to mock you, trying to laugh at you. These demonic people do this all the time. But a lot of these things come from envy, right? Because you naturally carry a light. And the dark is always envious of the light. So because you're like that, the dark's always going to try to pull you down. Going to try to like manipulate you. Going to try to get you stuck in certain situations. This is why you have to be wise as a serpent. You got to know all these schemes. You got to know all these plots. Because if you don't, you could get caught in it, right? Because it's meant to trap you. The dark is meant to trap you. It's supposed to consume you, right? But because you have God on your side, you have God with you at all times, you can never get consumed by the dark. You could be in these situations, but you'll always come out of them. Whatever these situations are, or whatever these people are, you could be in them, but you're never going to be in these indefinitely. You're always going to have a way out of these, right? This is why you also have to be really careful with who you talk to, because everybody could kind of see that you're someone that's different, right? I don't know who's watching this video, but if this resonates, this is definitely for you. But you may have been around a lot of people where like they start acting shady all of a sudden, or like you've had weird situations with people. And I've talked about this many times in my videos, where you've just had like situations that don't really happen to that many people happen to you, right? It's all a spiritual thing. It's all like, it's not necessarily just a superficial thing. Part of it could be superficial for whatever the reason, but most of it's spiritual, right? Because nobody that's a stranger just goes off on a random stranger, or like gets really mad at a random stranger for like no reason, right? And this may happen to you plenty of times, where like you could be somewhere and someone's just like mean mugging you, or like looking at you a certain way, or just staring at you, and you're like, what's going on? Like I've said many times in a lot of my videos, that it's all the light that you carry. You have a light. It's noticeable by a lot of people. It's noticeable by pretty much everyone, but most of the time you're kind of blind to it. And you're not necessarily blind to you, because you can kind of feel it too. Because most of the time you probably feel pretty good. You probably feel pretty optimistic and everything, so you could feel it. But people definitely see it. You just became kind of desensitized to that light that you have. And because of that light that you have, this is why you've never been able to kind of do evil. You just can't, because you're of God, and God is not evil. God is love, so you're going to naturally walk with love. You're going to naturally have grace, right? But people hate that. The dark hates that. The dark wants you to go to anger, wants you to go to jealousy, wants you to go to envy, wants you to kind of get in your pride, get in your ego. These are all plots and schemes from the enemy, right? Just wants you to get out of your godly self, wants to bring you out of your godly self. This is why sin is so common in the world. That's why it's so looked up upon, right? Like any sin, whether that's sexual immorality, whether that's being a drug addict, whether that's being prideful, being arrogant, having an ego, being obsessed with money, worshiping money. All these things in the world are what the world looks at as good, right? But because you're this polar opposite, because you are not of the world, God doesn't like anything in this world. That's why God says a friend of the world is an enemy of God, right? So if you generally like the things of this world, and I'm not saying you can't like a single thing about the world, but if you like the things that the world says are good, all the sins, all the greed, all the pride, wars, if you enjoy it and you go in it and you like it, and you're all prideful and everything, you're an enemy of God, right? Because you're doing exactly the opposite of what God wants to do. But for you, just because you've had a light, and I'm not sure why specific people are just chosen ever since they were younger, but this is what God does. It's in the Bible. Before I formed you in the womb, I've known you, right? So God has people that he's known before he formed in the womb. So some people are just born like that, right? So if you're chosen, it's most likely you're born with it. But just because you're born with it, just because you're born like that, doesn't mean you know God yet. But you'll end up knowing God. This is why it happens in certain times in your life where God reveals himself to you, right? God reveals himself to you. Like you start to hear about Jesus all the time. Your spirituality starts to change. You start to become more spiritual. You start to become more knowledgeable. You start to become different. You kind of go into this stuff that's a lot more righteous. You kind of see through deception more. So it's all bound to happen because you're purposed by God. It's always bound to happen. The past that you've lived have all been for a purpose, because if you didn't live these situations, you wouldn't be as knowledgeable about the stuff that you know if you didn't go through all these situations. So they're all for a purpose, because without the situations, you would constantly kind of get in situations that are not good for you. This is why you've probably gone through a lot of situations too, where for some reason it didn't work out for you, right? Because you're naturally supposed to expose corruption, evil. Anybody of God exposes the evil of this world, right? This is why you can't just stay in things that are wicked, stay in things that are evil. You just can't do it, because you're a light. You're a light, and since you're this light, you're going to be around a lot of dark people. It's not going to work, because light and dark can't coexist. You can't just be friends with light and dark. Cannot just be friends, right? They're polar opposites. But I'm getting a little out of the topic over here. But yeah, this is how your life is going to go. This is how your life has been, right? For anyone watching this video, not everyone's going to resonate with this, but I know a lot of you are going to resonate with this video. And you're innocent as a dove because you're of God. You don't seek to hurt anybody. You don't seek to be malicious. But you're wise as a serpent because you've seen everything, right? You have wide open eyes, so you see everything for what it is. Whether that's whatever the situation it could be, you've just had more open eyes about it, and you've just seen more. You've seen through more than other people see, because you've seen through past the ego and everything. You just see past, like, you see what's actually going on. And that's what's made your life difficult, because you could have been in situations like this where it feels like there's no way out. But your way out is always God. It's always going to be God. Since you're not of this world, the world's not going to be necessarily that friendly to you, right? Because you're polar opposites, which is with what's popular. That's why people have called you like rebellious. People have called you like arrogant or something. People have called you as delusional or something. None of that's true. It's just how you are. It's just how God made you. It's just the purpose that you have. Everything that you've been able to discern, like the opinions that you have on things, are most of the time right. They're right because you naturally have an eye to expose things, because you're a light. So you see it because the light just reveals everything. That's how you are. And the light is God, and God exposes everything. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you resonate with this video, definitely comment below. If you resonated really hard, definitely comment below. But anyone else is watching this video, I'd love to hear your comments. Don't forget to like, of course. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not subscribed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. God bless you guys.